Okay, so why do I always say so? Because so. Okay, I'm just playing. Okay, so seriously. Um so this experience that I am sharing with you is a recent experience. It happened days ago. And the reason I want to share this experience is because I want to use myself as an example of the importance of not allowing yourself to fall back into trauma, or not allowing triggers to re-traumatize you, but allowing those triggers to teach you. That's one reason why I want to share this experience. So that's on a micro personal level, right? Another reason why I am going to share this experience with you is to let you know how important community support and having your tribe, your group of people who are there for you to talk to, how important it is when you do have something that triggers you and potentially could throw you back in that space of trauma. Your community support, your family, your friends, those people who genuinely care about your growth and development. It is very important to have people around you to remind you that your traumatic experiences do not have to define you, and that your experiences does not mean that there is a monster around every corner of your life. You can actually use those moments to empower you and to bring awareness. And lastly, I want to share this story, my experience, because I think it's important to bring awareness to violence against women and the importance of teaching men their boundaries. And I was empowered by a few people who validated my experience. One person I was talking to, it was really interesting, who's part of my tribe. I spoke of it as if it was normal, and like I literally at that moment was normalizing a traumatic. When I was talking to her, I was talking like, oh, I was so frustrated that this happened to me. Some men are, blank, so she was shocked when I was talking as, and normalizing the experience, normalizing the trauma. And it is possible to be in environments where trauma is normalized and you learn to cope with it, but then it shows up in your behavior. It shows up in you being guarded in every situation, even in situations where there's no threat. That's why it's important to have supportive people around you. And I also, before I tell the story, I do want to preface it by saying, okay, the experience was traumatic because it brought up, it triggered past trauma. It wasn't once I processed my experience with my tribe, my community, my support system, things were put in a more healthier perspective, you know. So when I look back and as I retell the story, and put it in its proper context and it from a more objective point of view rather than from a traumatic and victim, perspective. I see it differently, So, and the reason why I talk about, I don't want to make it seem like being a victim is, because we've all been victims in some capacity, and we've all been perpetrators. We've all perpetuated things in some capacity or whatever. I like teaching the importance of going from being a victim of some kind to a survivor to a thriver. You don't grow if you stay in a constant state of trauma, in a constant state of victimization. And it takes every bit of you, and along with a healthy support system, to help bring you out of that and to help you progress and to help you start showing up better despite what you've been through, right? You're talking to somebody who has experienced multiple versions of trauma, and if I want to do more than just survive and just exist in this world and actually live to my fullest potential, I have decided that, every day of my life, I'm going to do what I need to do to live and show up my best in spite of. And so that's what, as once again, and I thank God for having such an amazing tribe, because it's so funny. When you live life and you just have to be, we're expected to be just tough because of, where you've come from or what you've had to go through. It can be very easy to just kind of dismiss an experience that, kind of is unsettled in your soul, in your core, in your heart, and in your emotions. But what's interesting is that, and I'm going to get to the story, but I just want to process it, and give you the juices and stuff before I tell you the story. Because I think for me, the most important thing is the lesson. And I want to take you through the journey of how I literally had the process of climbing out of being re-traumatized, something that triggered me, then re-traumatized me. Then I had to climb out of that and take that trigger and allow it to teach me a lesson. Okay? And I have to let you know, and be honest, it is not easy. And you can't do healing work on your own. It takes you being a willing participant in your own healing and progression. And then it takes community. And then on a macro level, it takes systems changing, and bringing a public awareness, of course. So, with all being said, this is what happened, okay? I was at the grocery store, and it was, towards the late afternoon, headed towards evening, and I was just getting dinner and stuff for for me and my kids or whatever. And I was at the checkout line. Then a gentleman walked behind me as if he was waiting for me to finish checking myself out. But he was standing rather close to me. And so he was trying to make warm conversation. Very nice man. And of course I wanted to appear welcoming because I get a lot of men who say that I seem guarded, and I am, and that is for a reason. He was rather close, but he was very kind and, making light conversation. And so then he, as I'm checking my stuff out, he just says, you should give me your number. And I just wasn't in the mood that day to give out my number. I didn't want to give my number out. And so he says, then how about we exchange emails? And I said, that's fair. When I'm finished checking out, I will give you my email. And he says, okay, but he stays rather close to me. So he's in my bubble, you guys. He's in my bubble. And it was time for me to check out. And I didn't want to put my credit card information in because he was very close to me. So close to the point where I just had to ask him, can I have a little space? And he says, why are you so guarded? And I said, sir, I don't know you, and I'd like to put my credit card information in. There are some free there are some open self-checkout scans on the other side. And he made another joke, about me being guarded and me pushing him away. And I'm just like, I just want my privacy. So I'm keeping this smile on my face because I'm, as a Black woman, we do hear a lot, we're kind of tired of it, by the way, of this whole strong, angry demeanor, and being a Black woman, that is always an internal dialogue. I don't want to come across as an angry Black woman or this or that. Anything I do or say seems aggressive to people, and it's tiring. And I'm telling you right now, as a Black woman, it is so tiring. Everything we do, everything we say is taken as aggression. It's taken as anger. It hurts. Why can't I just, instead of you seeing me as angry, why can't you see hurt? Why can't you see fear? Why can't you see that I'm frustrated or that I'm tired? Anything. We, we're not the only creatures that express anger, but that's not all we express, So here goes that inner dialogue that I'm quite sure the average Black woman plays when faced with the situation where you don't want to come across as, angry and aggressive. So I'm keeping this smile on my face and hoping he can just get the picture, because I am telling him out of my mouth, sir, just go to the other side, and then also as a woman, he was handsome, very nice looking guy. And he, inside the grocery store, he did not, he didn't feel like a threat. He just didn't have boundaries. And I just took it for that, right? In the grocery store. And when I finished checking out, my goal was to just leave. Okay. But he saw me leaving, and he, kind of yelled across the other side, like, hey. And he, followed me outside. And as I was walking to my car, he continued to make small talk. And then at some point we both stopped because I didn't know if he was going to walk me all the way to my car. I didn't know what was going on. He was just like, so can I have your number? And I was like, well, we can exchange emails. It's like, no, I want your number. And I was just like, okay. I took my phone out and I'm just like, okay, give me your number and I'll call you. He was like, no, let me put the number. And I told him, I can put your number in, I'll call you. And so he tries to snatch my phone out of my hand. And then at that point, he didn't seem like the same guy that was in the grocery store. Nice guy, but just lacked a little bit of boundaries. He came across as he just automatically assumed agency over me. And we were kind of playing tug of war with my phone. And I looked at him in his eyes and I said, I'm not giving you my phone. And then so I snatch it, and then he goes, okay. Then let me put my number in your phone. I'm tired at this point, y'all. It's the end of the day. Okay, man, you ain't getting my phone. I will let you push the buttons. And so he put his number in, and then he said, now call it. So he pressed the call button so he could lock my number in his phone, right? Fast forward, I was processing everything that happened, and I didn't know how to feel, and actually I was more curious at that point about him, the shift from just the jokey person in the store and lack boundaries to the aggressive person who acted like he had agency over me. But as the night grew, so I can move on with my day, because I got kids to raise. I got, I got to work. I have to keep moving, and that is a lot of times, what happens with adults. We just learn how to move past our traumas, but it still shows up in our behavior. And so I was noticing myself, after a couple of days, just falling into this depression, and then I started thinking about, when I was a kid, those kind of men, because I grew up in a neighborhood where it was a lot of violence, and most of the men in that community were angry and aggressive and very abusive to women. And you did whatever you had to do to stay alive. And a lot of us women had to, not by choice, but we just learned how to be aggressive right back to stay alive, or either just avoid those, try your best to avoid those kind of men. But make no mistake about it, it is an unsettling feeling to have to put yourself in the position where you're always having to protect yourself. And then when you move out of those spaces and out of those environments, it doesn't mean that trauma has left, So, and it's really, it can also make us resilient, so there's many different ways you can look at it. So, but back to the story, after I gave him my number, long story short, he did, he went to his car, I went to mine. But I knew I had to talk to healthy people who were objective, and who were people who did not dismiss my experience, and at the same time gave me tools and reminded me of the tools that I already have to pull myself out of that space that I was feeling myself sinking into, back to traumatic childhood experiences, right? And now I want to go to the part of the important of another reason why I'm telling this story, which is the importance of having that community, like I said before. Because if I didn't have the community and the tribe of people that I have that validated my experience and literally told me, first of all, what he did was not okay. And if you still feel unsettled, you might want to talk to a therapist to help you process through what happened. Okay? If I had not had a supportive group of people around me to remind me that what I experienced was not okay, and it is okay to get extra help to help you process through that. I know me. I would have pressed it back in my mind. I probably would have found a way to say, did I, was it how I dressed? What did I do did I do something? I probably would have put it on me, knowing because of the type of person I am, and then not only that, it would have continued to show up in my behavior and subconsciously being. And then next thing you know, I slide into a depression, because that's what and another thing, the importance, self-awareness. It's self-awareness. This was not the first time, obviously, because I grew up in trauma. And this is not going to be the last time, that I experience something that may trigger me, or even experience something unsettling. It's all about how you process through it so that you can gain and maintain resilience, so that you can show up better, So like I said before, having that support system, having your tribe around you is so important. My kids need to see the most healthiest version of me that they can. So I need to use all my resources to keep my glass full. Self-care is so important, and you need your people around you to help you and remind you of the importance of self-care. So I am so grateful that I have a support system where I can be honest, where I can process my feelings, and they can be honest with me. And not only that, but my tribe, my support system offered another way of looking at the situation that puts me in the position where I can empower men and women, and at the same time address the obvious. So let's go back to that story, and let me tell you what I ended up doing after talking to my tribe and my support system. Because I still had I was going to just block his number, but I wanted to give him a life lesson, and I texted him and I told him how I experienced him that day, and I let him know that he crossed all my boundaries, and he felt me guarded because I was guarded, because he was a stranger stepping into my world without permission. And that is important. It is important for men to respect women's boundaries. It's important for people. Just people need to respect all people's boundaries. If I can help it, I try not to make it a man versus woman issue. But because there are still issues with violence against women, including transgender women. There is still femicide still exists. Just the hierarchy the patriarchy of our society. It does put women at a disadvantage in a lot of areas. That is something that we need to teach. We need to teach men to learn boundaries and to respect a woman's boundaries. There was nothing that I did. There was nothing that I had on that welcomed him into my space. We were not friends. I never met this man a day in my life. There was nothing that I did that gave him a reason to step into my personal space, try to take my phone, and he just forced his way into my life. Now, with that being said, when I look at it from a holistic point of view, I think just educating men on the importance of their mental health is very important. Yeah, it is very important. It saddens me when I think about the fact that he really thought that he was, you know, just he didn't know that how I was experiencing him. He thought he was being harmless. And because I didn't know anything about this man and the way he was coming at me, I saw him as a threat. So like I said, I sent him that text message and I told him, your next impression of a woman that you find interest in, respect and boundaries has to be priority. And if a woman says no, even if she likes you, she may call you 2 or 3 days later, but and that's okay. You don't force yourself into someone's life. And I guess this can go for men and women. I don't care whoever has an issue with lacking boundaries and whoever has a hard time taking no for an answer, it's a no-no. It's a no-no. No one belongs to you. You have no agency over anyone but yourself. So, that is how I'm choosing to look at it now. I'm choosing to look at it. First of all, I'm grateful that because I still don't know what his intentions are. I don't know. After I sent that text message, I blocked him. So I still to this day don't know what his intentions were. I'm grateful I got home safely. I'm grateful that I got an opportunity to express how I experienced him, and then I gave him some words of advice moving forward. If he ever finds a woman at the grocery store that he has, still got to respect boundaries. So that was how I turned that experience that triggered me back into that re-traumatized me, and used it as a teaching moment for myself. I learned something about myself that day, and I was grateful that I remembered to use my tools, and my community support is one of my tools. My tribe, my self-awareness is another one of my tools. How can I use this experience to bring awareness to a broader issue, which is domestic violence, which is crimes and violence against women, and any vulnerable group. And I'm not going to say I'll do it every time, but we have to have that self-awareness piece. You have to learn how to be so in tune with yourself and your emotions and your mind and your behavior that you watch yourself, watch your patterns. I have a huge responsibility to keep myself in check because I'm a mom, so I talk to people. I keep people who I know love me close to me, and I'm honest with them. Like my tribe, I'm honest with my tribe. I'm honest with my support system, because I recognize that I don't grow if I don't speak up. On this platform, for Melanation Healing Project, everyone knows the goal is to show up better. The goal is to show up better. that is how we turn generational and transgenerational trauma into generational healing. But first, we have to do the work as individuals. So I hear a whole lot of people talk about, yeah, the trial and the triumph. But we really don't do much focusing on the actual process, and not very many people are honest about the fact that it is a daily process. It is a daily choice, and like I said, it's a choice it's a choice and it's a journey that you don't do alone. You can't do alone, but you definitely have to be an active participant in your own life in order for you to show up, despite what has happened to you in your past, despite where you have come from, despite what have triggered you. You have to be that participant, that willing participant in your life, and do the work so that your support system can help carry you over the finish line so you can meet that better version of you. Okay. So that's all I had. All right.